Google, Yahoo, AOL, and all the major service providers for email are making some major changes in June 2024. Today, I'm going to talk to you about what these changes are going to be and how they can impact your business. Whether you're a copywriter, whether you're a marketer, business owner, or you're doing anything along the lines of direct response marketing, this will impact you greatly. So listen up, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do to ensure that your conversions don't suffer. My name is Maria Sparagas, and I am a conversion optimization expert. I help thousands of merchants figure out what are the best ways to convert every sale that lands onto their checkout cart. And today, I really want to explore email because I know this is a very big area of concern for a lot of marketers. Anybody who has an online business in the last couple of years has been relying on email as a major source of revenue. So these changes can make a huge impact on your sales. In fact, email has been a gold mine for the last couple of years. Google and Facebook and all the big social media platforms have made so many changes to their algorithms. It has thrown online businesses and online business owners just, a couple of wrenches, and they've been able to kind of come back and figure out different ways. But each time there's been a change on these platforms, it has had a major impact on revenue, especially on direct response businesses. So a lot of marketers and business owners and so forth started relying heavily on email lists and emailing their customers and their lists in order to make sales, to compensate for the fact that social media and other platforms were not doing as well or were more expensive to operate. Well, the time has come for email and email providers to make changes because there has been some abuse there. So a lot of email service providers are now looking at ways to curb spam and to curb, merchants and businesses who are over emailing or not respecting the C-spam rules and so forth. So it's important that you know what's going to happen and be ready and ahead of the curve and implement these changes right away. I mean, you don't have to wait for your deliverability and your sales to go down before you make these changes, because I can guarantee you that if you don't make any changes and you don't ensure that you're following the rules, that your business and your sales will suffer. Now, the main changes and the goals of these changes are to ensure that senders are authenticated and they're trustworthy senders and they're not spamming or, sending phishing emails to users and so forth. So, the goal ultimately is to clean up the space and ensure that, people who are opening their emails are not getting flooded with a ton of, spam messages or phishing emails and so forth. So obviously the intent of these providers like Gmail and Yahoo and so forth is to ensure a better user experience. But this can, obviously there are some businesses that are just not up to the snuff tech-wise, and they may be just making mistakes unknowingly, and which can hurt their business. So it's important to read up on these rules. I'm going to put a link down below to really give you a lot more information, but here I'm going to summarize a couple of the things that you really need to know and you need to do today. Now, what used to be allowed is images and links. There were some best practices, but in general, you can include a lot of links and a lot of images in your emails, as long as you weren't marked too highly as spam from people who were receiving your emails, then generally you got into the inbox. Another thing that used to be allowed is emails from domains without DMARC certification. So if you have not authenticated your email using DMARC, then it's very, very important that you get that done, because that can have a huge impact on your deliverability. So in the past, it didn't matter, but obviously, as I mentioned, these things are all going to change in the coming weeks. Now, for a platform like Google, they will be heavily using AI to try to figure out the bad actors and to create some best practices in their email platform to ensure these rules are respected and enforced. Gone are the days of email subject lines that do not match what's in the text. Now, I know a lot of this is clickbait, and a lot of people, relied on very clickbaity type subject lines in order to get people to open it, things that didn't really relate to what the content was. So you need to make sure that the algorithm doesn't think that your subject line doesn't match what's in the text. If not, you're going to get penalized. They're going to say, you're trying to fish, or you're trying to spam somebody and so forth. So that's really, really important. And I think with Google's, investment in AI and so forth, they're going to get pretty good at detecting when the subject line does not match what's in the text. Now, another thing is going to really be your domain reputation. So if people are marking you as spam, if you're, in the past, you've done some bad things with email, or if you don't have SSL on your domain and so forth, and maybe, there's been some bad activity on your domain, you will get penalized on email. So make sure you know your domain's reputation. Make sure you don't test email lists that you don't know how they're going to react. So if you have a big email list that's been cold for a while, you want to try to, slowly start to get them to engage, because you don't want to blast an email to a list of, 5 or 10,000, and then, 30-40% of these people mark you as spam. And then, obviously it's going to take you a long time to rebuild that domain reputation. So make sure that you know what your domain reputation is. Make sure you have an SSL certificate and you have all the security protocols, as I mentioned, the DMARC and so forth, done on your email domain. And now the name of the game, as it is on social media, is engagement. So Google will be looking for engagement in your email. So what can you do to make sure that your emails get opened, that they get forwarded, that they get replied to, that people are sharing them and so forth. So that's very similar to what you're seeing on social media, on Facebook and so forth. The more engagement you get, obviously the better outcome you're going to have. And that's what Google is looking for on Gmail. They're looking for people to actually engage with your content and forward it and share it and so on and so forth. So, obviously now with AI writing a lot of text and helping a lot of copywriters and so forth, you have to take it up a notch and make sure that you test even more emails and you test even more the engagement that, your customers would have with that content. So engagement is key. And this is a word that we're seeing all the time on social media and so forth. And, obviously it's made its way onto email at this point. You have to have users engage with your content on email in order for Google to like you and to keep you on the inbox. Now, Yahoo's going to be doing the same thing with the domain reputation. That's going to be kind of across the board. All email service providers and, people who are offering email platforms will be making sure that you have a good domain reputation, that your metrics for spam are taken into account and so forth. And also user interaction engagement is, as I said, a really big thing. And it's going to be the same thing for Yahoo. But what Yahoo's doing to take it a little further or to change it up from what Gmail is doing is they're going to have even more enhanced spam filters. So this is kind of the crazy thing about what's going on, is that these big companies are now deciding what people are going to be able to read or not read and how to censor this information. So we saw this happen, during the time of COVID. There was a lot of censoring. There was a lot of voices that were buried a little bit because, for example, they were saying things about vaccines, or they were saying things that didn't make sense or weren't the popular opinion at that point. And, obviously now through email, I think it'd be safe to say that this is where we're headed with email as well, which is a little bit sad, but at the same time, there are some bad actors, and Yahoo is going to try to figure out who the bad actors are and pull them out. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a little bit of censoring and there's going to be a little bit of manipulation there. So keep an eye out, especially, during the election and so forth. If you're being very polarizing and so forth, take a look at your deliverability on each of the emails and test different angles to make sure you're not seen as, spam or marked as spam because of perhaps an inflamed opinion or something that may be a little bit controversial. Obviously, that your domain's reputation, your user engagement, and what you're seeing on your emails is going to be scrutinized even further. And with AI, it's going to be easier and easier for these platforms to make these changes and to, get rid of bad actors, and perhaps you're going to get penalized because you're not doing things correctly. So it is important to ensure that you're still getting into the inbox. And here are a couple of things that you can do to ensure that you still land in the inbox and you're not going into that bad promo tab, or even worse, into the spam folder. So consistency and volume of emails that you send should remain somewhat consistent. I mean, you can't predict this every day. And if you have a promo, you may want to send more and so forth, but you don't want to do, for example, all your sending in 2 days of the week and then nothing for the rest of the week. You want to try to segment and send a regular amount of email as much as possible on a daily basis. Maybe you, for example, don't mail on Sundays or a day that you see that sales are down and so forth, but you want to not do, 20,000 on Monday and then 2,000 on Tuesday. You want to try to break that up so it could be, 10,000 each day, just to try to remain a consistent level so you don't trigger any bad algorithms that may make you look spammy. As I said earlier, segment your audience. So if you have, very engaged users, you want to email them more often. You want to maybe email them more offers. If they're engaging with your content, that's great. You want to, continue what you're doing there. But if you have a cold list or people who you haven't engaged with in a while, you don't want to go ahead and email them all on the same day. You want to try to segment them out. Know your demographic, know what they like, and really try small samples of that list slowly to warm them up in order to ensure that, you're not sending to a huge list and you're being marked as spam. And then obviously it's much harder to correct an issue on email than to go slowly and really build up. So, even though it may be tempting if you get a new list to kind of blast an email and see how something does because you want to see results quickly, it will probably penalize you more to take that strategy. Even though you'll get data faster, you may actually end up ruining your email reputation and have more issues in the end. Now, as I say often on my podcast and in my videos, you have to know your data for every metric in your business. Whether you're a marketer, a copywriter, an offer owner, you have to know your data. How many conversions are you getting? How many sales are you getting? How many decline transactions are you getting? And it's the same thing with your email deliverability. What is your email deliverability per platform? It will change based on whether it's Google, Gmail, or if it's Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, and so forth. You may do better on some platforms than others. Not that you can, obviously you don't want to prevent people from signing up to your list if they're from Hotmail versus Gmail and so forth, but you have to know your data for each platform. Most of these platforms have tools. They have different things that you can use, and I would suggest that you use the tool from each platform. Obviously you want to try at least the main ones, but there are some tools that can give you data for a lot of platforms, but you need to segment it. You need to know your deliverability with Gmail, with Hotmail, with Yahoo, and so on and so forth. And using these tools will give you all this data to know, are you following the rules on this platform versus the other, and so on and so forth. So for example, Google's Postmark tool will be imperative for you to know how you're doing on Gmail and if you're, following the rules and so forth. And I do tell you that proceed with caution. If you're not sure, you may want to pause sending big email blasts until you know that things are good. You may want to send a couple of smaller segmented emails throughout the day just so you can see your results and so forth. But this is a big thing, and it can cause a lot of, different businesses to lose a lot of money if it's not done correctly, because I know, as I said, email has been the bread and butter of a lot of businesses, particularly in direct response for the last couple of years. So this is not a time to be, too adventurous and try too many things when you're not sure if things are set up properly. Now, within your email, in the actual email body, any website that you refer to, you have to make sure it's a trusted website. So if you're referring out to another website, a third party, for example, if you're an affiliate, make sure that that website is actually, a good website with a good domain reputation. Make sure that the websites have a privacy policy, terms and conditions, the name and address of the business should also be on the website. And these are just best practices, whether it's your business or whether you're an affiliate, you have to make sure these things are done. So when somebody clicks through a link, all the information is there. And obviously Google's AI and all the different AI tools from the email providers will be looking out for these things on your links. Now, if you're using a do not reply email address, you got to stop that. So that's not going to work, because you need to make sure that people are engaging with your content. So, gone are the days of, do not reply to this email, nobody checks this email address, and so on and so forth. You have to use an email address that somebody's monitoring, that's getting the emails and so forth, and you're trying to get people to engage with you. So do not use an email address that people cannot reply to. That's going to penalize you greatly. So that being said, Engagement is key. As I said, make sure people open your emails, reply to your emails, ask them to reply to your emails. Tell them, if you like this or if you want to see something different, let me know your thoughts, let me know your ideas, and so on and so forth. You want to try as much as possible for people to engage with your content. The easiest thing is to ask them. So we generally forget to have a CTA in a lot of things. I've seen this so many times where, it's a great sales email, and at the end, they don't actually tell us what we need to do. So remember, have a CTA, make sure you ask customers to reply to you, to give you feedback, to forward it, whatever you want them to do with your email, you want to tell them on that email. And also, if you're sending over 5,000 emails per day, what you want to do is you want to turn off your domain privacy on Whois. Now, a lot of us use privacy because we don't want to be spammed on our domains. We don't want necessarily, for the owner to be known when people look it up, but that's now going to penalize you on your email if your domain is private and you're sending a lot of emails. Basically, what the email platforms want is they want customers to know who you are, to know how to reach out to you, to know how to engage with you, and so on and so forth. So keep these practices in mind, and anything that you can do to get the users to have a better experience or to engage with you, just start testing it and start doing it. And if you're not sure, you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know how I should structure my emails and so forth, the best thing you can do is copy the big guys. So I say this all the time on your checkout page, for example, when customers are buying, what's the best user experience? Well, companies like Amazon and Wayfair and so forth, they spend millions of dollars in testing the best way for a customer to check out, the easiest way, and so forth. So if you go onto their pages, you can just copy what they're doing because they've already spent the big bucks to find out what's working. Now, on the email perspective, I always suggest if you're an email marketer or you're selling a lot of product on email, you should be subscribing to very large lists to see what their best practices are, to see what they're doing on email, to see, how they're engaging with their customers, and then try to copy them for your industry. So you can sign up, for Amazon, Starbucks, Wayfair, Spotify, and all these big guys, and they've already implemented these rules. And what they're doing is ensuring that, they follow this so their deliverability stays up to date. So I know it may be annoying to have all these lists that you're subscribed to, but that really is the best way to make sure that you're learning from the best marketers and you're following the rules as they should be. Now, if you have any comments or any feedback, please feel free to drop them down below. And as I said, for CTAs, please like, subscribe, and share this content with anybody you think is useful. I try to pour my heart out on this podcast and my YouTube channel and give you guys good information. So I'm always looking for feedback. So a 5-star review or any review would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.